So this is a quick little thing I found on the importance of Maslow's pyramid of needs. One of the most legendary ideas in the history of psychology is located in an unassuming triangle divided into 5 sections, referred to universally simply as Maslow's Pyramid of Needs. This profoundly influential pyramid first saw the world in an academic journal in the United States in 1943, where it was crudely drawn in black and white and surrounded by dense and jargon-rich text. It has since become a mainstay of psychological analysis, business presentations, and online lectures, and grown ever more colorful and empathetic in the process. The pyramid was the work of 35-year-old Jewish psychologist of Russian origins called Abraham Maslow, who had been looking since the start of his professional career for nothing less than the meaning of life. No longer part of this close-knit Orthodox family of his youth, Maslow wanted to find out what could make life purposeful for people, himself included, in modern-day America, a country where the pursuit of money and fame seemed to have eclipsed any more interior or authentic aspirations. He saw psychology as the discipline that would enable him to answer the yearnings and questions that people had once taken to religion. Maslow suddenly saw that human beings could be said to have essentially 5 different kinds of needs. On the one hand, the psychological, or what one could term without any mystic being meant by the word, the spiritual, and the other, the material. For Maslow, we all start with a set of utterly non-negotiable and basic psychophysiological needs for food, water, warmth, and rest. In addition, we have urgent safety needs and bodily security and protection from attack. But then we start to enter the spiritual domain. We need belongingness and love. We need friends and lovers. We need esteem and respect. And lastly, the most gradually, we are driven by what Maslow called, and now legendary term, an urge for self-actualization, a vast, touchingly nebulous and yet hugely apt concept involving what Maslow describes as living according to one's full potential and becoming who we really are. So this is the pyramid. So you have your physiological needs need to be met first: food, water, warmth, rest. Okay, and then if those needs are met, you can have safety needs, so security, safety. So this can even mean like housing, people who are homeless, they'd still be here. You can't work on, like, it's going to be hard to try to work on your esteem needs if you're still working on your safety needs. And then next you have your belongingness and love, intimate relationship, friends. This can even just be support services. Esteem needs, prestige, and a feeling of accomplishment. And finally, self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. Part of the reason why the description of the needs laid out in pyramid form has proven so persuasive is their capability to capture with elemental simplicity a profound structural truth about human existence. Maslow was putting his finger with unusual deftness and precision on a set of answers to very large questions that tend to confuse and perplex us vigorously, particularly when we are young. Namely, what are we really after? What do we long for? How do we arrange our priorities and give due regard for the different and completing claims we have on our attention? Maslow was reminding us with artistic concision of the shape of an ideal, well-lived life, proposing at once that we cannot live by our spiritual callings alone, but also that it cannot be the right to remain focused only on the material either. We need to be whole, both the material and the spiritual realms, to be attended to, the base lending support, while the summit offers upward direction and definition. Maslow was rebutting calls from 2 sorts of zealots. Firstly, ardent spiritual types who might urge us to forget entirely about money, housing, a good insurance policy, and even enough to pay for lunch. But he was also fighting against extreme, hard-nosed pragmatics who might imply that life was simply a brute process of putting food on the table and going to the office. Both camps had, for Maslow's, misunderstood the complexity of the human animal. Unlike other creatures, we truly are multifaceted, called at once to unfurl our soul according to its inner density, and to make sure we can pay the bills at the end of the month. Operating at the heyday of American capitalism, Maslow was interestingly ambivalent about businesses. He was awed by the material resources of large corporations around him, but at the same time he lamented that almost all their economic activity was unfairly and bizarrely focused on honoring customers' needs at the bottom of his pyramid. America's largest companies were helping people to have a roof on their heads, feeding them, moving them around, and ensuring they could talk to each other a long distance. But they seemed utterly uninterested in trying to fulfill the essential spiritual appetites defined on the higher slopes of his pyramid we saw on a previous slide. Towards the end of his life, Maslow expressed a hope that businesses could, in time, learn to make more of their profits from addressing not only our basic needs, but also, and as importantly, our higher spiritual and physiological ones as well. That could be truly enlightened capitalism. In the personal sphere, Maslow's pyramid remains a hugely useful object to turn whenever we are trying to assess the direction of our lives. Often, as we reflect upon it, we start to notice that we really haven't arranged and balanced our needs as wisely and elegantly as we might. Some lives have got an implausibility-wide base. All the energy seems directed towards material accumulation. At the same time, there are lives in the opposite problem, where we have not paid due heed to our need to look after our fragile and vulnerable bodies. Maslow was pointing us to the need for the greater balance between many priorities we must juggle. His beautifully simple visual cue is, above all anything else, a portrait of a life lived in harmony with the complexities of our nature. We should, at our less frantic moments, use it to reflect with newfound focus on what we might do next. So, if you'd like, go back to the list. There can be things that, like, for example, you can have good esteem, but not have the bottom thing. But it makes it harder to work on that. So you need to work on the bottom and then work your way up. You need to make sure your food and stuff is working, then you reduce your safety. But you can have, say, I have safety, but I don't have all my physiological needs met. But this is all about having balance between the material things you need, and your basic needs, and your spiritual needs, which is why Maslow's pyramid is so important in assessing what you need in the complexity of humans. So thank you for listening.